So we've been doing talks for a while. We've gone back and forth over the years, attempting to connect thoughts together. And while we're growing, right, while we grow and evolve, the thoughts evolve, the situations grow and evolve. So many different topics that are hot topics in this day and age, and in every age: religion, laws, truth. I'd love to say it's as easy as us all getting back to whatever God is, but we all have to unify for one truth. And an indisputable truth. And what is an indisputable truth? How do we create this reality around us? With thoughts? Do our thoughts affect the reality around us? That's a good question. And if that were truth, then, the two human emotions, fear versus love, then love, there would be no place for fear. For us to create reality based in fear, it doesn't make any sense, and that's not truth. False evidence appearing real, it's not truth. You're much more powerful in the light. You flick a match in a room full of darkness, and the darkness instantly flees, is what the man says. But you can't do the same to light. You can't take any amount of darkness. So light's much more powerful than darkness. Truth is much more powerful than lies and fear. And we all have to come together under an umbrella of humanity. You watch bees, they all come together. You watch ants, they all come together. Now, when it's time for the season to end, the males in the bee colony get pushed and kicked out. Now, I don't know what that means for humans, how that same logic translates to humanity. But for us to come together, what does Maslow say? Maslow has a hierarchy of needs that places the basic needs at the bottom. And how can we have societies at large, and Tupac said, how can there be billionaires, people with 40 rooms in their home, and there's people starving on the streets? How can we have people that are creating a self-actualized existence, and simultaneously a resistance to the basic survival needs, food, water, shelter, of a large percentage, not only in America where I live, but across the entire world? How can there be a thought that says to control people through money and keep them slaves to wages and propagate, if that's even the word, perpetuate homelessness, perpetuate so much lack? How can you have and I don't know if those people are self-actualized or better have accomplished securing all of the needs under that. Can a person that's okay, let's take a politician, for example. They make 10 times as much as the rest of us, $300,000, $400,000 a year, 10 times, we'll say, the average. How can you have a self-actualized person that's okay with that? Is that love, my dude? Is that love, to create and perpetuate lack in others? Switching gears, I've put many videos of my journey through the Quran, reading the Quran, reciting the Quran, and I'm going to come out there and say it, it's hard not to feel and see how the left, with all of their tolerance, bullshit, of acceptance of anyone regardless of anything, how there can be such a hatred and a backlash for Christianity. I can't say mostly peaceful. I mean, throughout the ages, of course not. But find any standing army that is backed by a deity, that's conquered nations. I mean, is there one that's exempt? It's just interesting how, with so much talk, again, of acceptance, that there can be such a backlash and a hatred for it. So I would venture to say that what Revelations, from what I've heard, I've never read it, but from what I've heard, is that Christians and Christianity will be openly attacked, and I would think that the infiltration of America, the open border policy perpetuated by the, quote-unquote left, but all the bought and paid for politicians on both sides, that the open border policy ushers in people from all over, but the Muslim religion, Iran, Afghanistan, and then off of the Muslim culture, you've got Russia, China, Korea, and I guess Haiti could fall under that. But, if those five plus the wild card sixth, Haiti, if those five gathered and concentrated their forces together, would that be enough for a world war to overcome America? If those, the enemy of my enemy is my friend type deal? I feel like the Muslim culture, the Muslim religion, is being pushed in America. It's getting for some reason, a far more acceptance. I can see connecting how gangster culture in the 80s and 90s, whenever I was a child, right? How this could grow from the backlash of anti-authoritarianism, similarly the punk rock movement of the 80s, the 70s, 80s, 90s, with just anti-establishment, even stemming back from the Vietnam, the 50s, 60s, the 70s, of the free love movement, etc., 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 etc. All that to say, I'm listening to the radio, they're talking about, is Trump going to be in or not? Well, we expect him to be. How you could re-elect or elect in the first place someone like a Biden. I never understood how people could openly hate Trump and have such a distaste until Biden gets into office. You've got an individual who people say, well, yeah, this man became bankrupt. Oh, sure, he's had businesses, but he went bankrupt. How much debt is this country in? And we're looking at a person who's still in business. That bankruptcy didn't cause him to fail in the way of giving up, right? So even though he failed, he continued to push. He continued to believe in himself. And what's better than having a positive self-image and belief in oneself? Faith is what Christianity and the Bible calls it. You take the Bible from 500 years ago, you take it from 2,000 years ago. Apparently that's the secret. His thoughts become things. We become what we contemplate most. Aurelius said it. A man, something along the lines of a man's existence has died with his thoughts, or something like that. It's interesting how a person like Trump, who's been loved by the black community, can then be turned around and called a racist. It's really interesting that a person like a Trump can, self-admittedly or not, yeah, I walked into a room full of young girls. Whether or not it's, well, I own the place, I'm going to do what I want, or I'm a fucking weirdo. How, self-admittedly or not, how that could overshadow the activities, the behaviors that have been exhibited over years for people like specifically Brandon. Fuck Joe Biden. How can anybody turn a blind eye to Joe Biden making children feel uncomfortable by touching them inappropriately and smelling them, which is inappropriate? How many of you out there would be okay with me smelling your kids, my nieces? How many people would say, you know what, he's a stand-up guy, smelling kids, touching them, fucking getting close to them and whispering to them? You know what it sounds like to me? It sounds like a grooming pedophile, a groomer, boomer. How we can give aid to other countries to fight in wars that have literally been invaded, and people slaughtered, and yet this administration would have you believe that American citizens do not need firearms, that somehow the Second Amendment was about hunting, how the First Amendment, how it can be suppressed. The Founding Fathers understood technological advances. I'm sure that they could not comprehend quite as vividly as we see currently the technological advances with the telephone and the cellular technology and the internet and the transfer of information. But the First Amendment, freedom of press, religion, and speech cannot be eroded by a bunch of other humans. It was not made or gifted to us from humans. The Constitution states that the government cannot. It does not say that they can. It says that they will not. Will make no. Second Amendment, the same thing. There were automatic weapons decades before the American Revolution. They probably weren't as widely available. So an open border ushers in illegal immigrants from South America, illegal immigrants and cartel extremists, if you will, cartel sympathizers from Mexico. And if I were somebody, say, like an Iran or an Afghani or a Korean or a Chinese nationalist, I would want to come to America too for the freedoms. And that's what I've heard these people say. for the freedoms that for the freedoms of expression, for the freedom of the press. And I love that for people. I love that people can come here and be free. But if you come here to attack America, what would be a better way to do it than an open border where you're not going to be checked if you're a terrorist or not? You can bring your own firearms that they will never be able to track. You didn't buy it here, you can't track it. So buy your guns. Get out and vote in your local elections. Be aware of what's going on as much as you can. Put whatever God is, put God first. There is a voice. We have inside each of us a voice in here somewhere and out here. Our words are charged with a great deal of prospering power. We literally create the world around us through our thoughts, emotions, or feelings, and our words and actions. And we must control the thoughts, emotions, words, and actions. Fuck Joe Biden. And I'd be happy to pull security for Trump. I don't believe Trump's bought and paid for. I don't believe people can buy someone who has enough money to pay for everything themselves. You can't buy someone who has money. Now, the scary thing is, will that person be swayed regardless of the money? Will they do what's right, whatever right is, the perspective? Will they, hey, I don't believe in abortion. I believe it's wrong. But I'll stand up for your right to do it regardless. It's killing a baby, yes. It's a slippery slope. That's why they don't want to touch it. Hey, I don't think you need a firearm. But I'll fight for your right to keep it. I don't believe in hateful speech. I don't believe in saying death to America. But I know that countless American patriots have fought for your right, and I'll fight for your right to be able to say what you want to fucking say. Whether or not it's wrong or not. You can be wrong all you want. Just be prepared. I guess it's my message. This is just my thoughts, my feelings, my words. My action is sharing my thoughts and feelings because it's bubbling up. It's stress. It's stress-inducing. There's so much going on that we cannot keep up with everything going on in the world and in America and in our singular life. By the time I've woken up, gotten back home, that's 12 or 13 hours out of my fucking day, man. So lead with love. Find what God's will is for your life. Become a person that can communicate effectively with others. Because that's going to be the currency of the future. It's the currency today. Is effectively communicating with others to be able to trade physical assets or just ideas. Get a firearm and become an effective protector. Don't believe what the media is telling you. Don't believe what the White House is telling you. Even if Trump gets reelected, even when Trump gets back into office, do your homework, do your research. Call a spade a spade. If it's wrong, call it wrong. If it's incorrect, call it incorrect. But lead with love, follow God, and be smart.